When the opportunity came to submit artwork for an online art exhibit with the theme Feel the Spring, my first reaction was, I want to create a room with an art wall and Staffordshire dogs. Does that say spring? No, not exactly, but that is how I'm operating these days. I ask myself, what do I want to paint? And the answer seems to be rooms and what's inside of them. I also love their windows and doors too. It's a bit of a room renaissance that I'm in, I guess you could say. You see, as a kid, I drew them too, but my approach was more like an architect. I measured everything, including how much space in square inches my giant panda took up. I had a desk like this one that I totally loved. I even used it as the idea for my website logo. The desk was awkward to measure back then, so I sat my panda on top of the whole thing and determined that they had the same square inches. I also loved drawing the things on my dresser drawers, in the cubby of my night table, and the things on my shelves. Anyway, I digress. This video is titled Art Inspired by Spring, so I'll get to it. I wanted to use this video as a way to describe my approach with submissions, commissions, and exhibits in general, and hopefully it helps you. I think the first point that I was getting to before I got sidetracked is how important it is to begin any submission or body of work with what you love to draw, paint, or create. I know that seems really obvious, but I've gone down the road of racking my brain as to what I think a person or a gallery would want, and I've seen many artists think the same thing, and almost 100% of the time, the first thing to go out the door is enthusiasm for the project. And almost always, there will be second guessing. Sometimes a theme is just not enough to get you excited. I know we want to make others happy with our art, but our happiness and a love for what we're doing really begins within each of us and carries our signature energy out into the world with so much power. If you want your art to resonate with others, you have to love what you're doing. This is how your art will speak to the heart of somebody else. Once I established I wanted to paint yet another room, I could then think about how to inject it with some springtime. It's very common here where I live that we have these shutters that you close at night from the inside. And in the morning, it's fun to open them with two hands. It feels like a reveal of the beauty outside. Lately, there are more spring blooms, so I wanted to capture that feeling of the morning. So I went searching for a reference photo of a woman that could depict that idea. This leads me to my second suggestion. Pinpoint the feeling you want to convey. For spring, my first word is joy, because after a long winter of rain, I'm ready for blooms, sun, and walking around pretty pastel-colored buildings with my camera. These things bring me joy. The third step for me, which is really at the heart of why I make art, is the personal meaning that I like to express with it. I ask myself what the theme means to me, in this case, spring, and I make quick associations with whatever is happening in my life. I may even draw a parallel with the past, looking for a story there, or with what I'm currently reading or listening to, like a podcast, or even conversations with friends. I may jot some ideas down like a brainstorm and see if more comes from that. In this case, the line I drew was pretty easy between spring and my love of Greek mythology. I identify a lot with the myth of Persephone being abducted into the underworld, and I'm laughing because you may have noticed on some of my videos, I am in touch with my feelings. I am very comfortable in my personal underworld. For me, the myth of Persephone symbolizes going within for a time, and maybe in my case, a long time, and getting acquainted with my personal shadows, fears, and the like, and then coming to the surface. And then hopefully sharing some light with the world. At least that is what I hope to do. Whatever lessons I've learned, I would love to pass that on if it will help you as well. The myth of Persephone and her mother Demeter is associated with the seasons, with Mother Earth, and her transformations at different levels, not only for the natural world, but as well as for us humans. Winter is a time to rest, to be more introspective, to sleep more. Trees, seeds, and bulbs are dormant. It seems like not much is happening, but really everything is. Life is in process, and then seemingly overnight, it blooms spectacularly with its abundance in the spring. I know the details in the art are tiny, but they mean something to me, gleaned from this myth that I just described. Demeter and Persephone are mother and daughter. The nude represents the vulnerability of facing oneself in the underworld, and the dressed woman is representative of how she shows up in the world. The red on her arms means she's in her power. The butterfly is that transformation between them. The abstract represents seeds below the surface and their potential above ground. The 3 seeds are also represented below the daylilies, on the 3 little buds on each branch with the bluebird of happiness beneath them, and they are also repeated on the wall and on the butterfly wings. The number 3 is associated with the triple goddess. Persephone is the maiden, Demeter the mother, and Hecate, another goddess, or Hecate, however you want to pronounce it. She's another goddess I really love, and she represents the crone. They are archetypes for the 3 phases of a woman's life. With color, I like to take an intuitive approach like I share in this video here. I start with the first 3 colors that jump out at me, and I usually go from there. At some point in the process of painting, I almost made the wall taupe, but painted over that with teal. And the serendipity didn't surprise me that I really wanted to stick with this color, because later I read that in many cultures, the color teal is associated with the underworld or the realm of the dead. And it's definitely a color of renewal, which speaks of spring to me. Pink is the color of the feminine, of play, and of hope. And this is sort of how I see the woman at the door. She's on the threshold of possibility. Soon she'll be out there with her camera, taking all that beauty in that she sees and transforming it into more art. She loves life, and the dog represents life loving her back. Now, I probably wouldn't explain all this in a submission, but for an exhibit, I would summarize some of these thoughts, and I'd probably create a thread of meaning between my paintings. For a commission, I'd ask my clients what they would love on their art, and I would place those ideas within the context of what I want to make first, much like I did with this spring-themed art. There's also the material, superficial level that I began this chat with, and I think it's also super important. My heart is happy with eye candy like the Staffordshire dogs, which, by the way, I actually found a pair in an antique store last week. I couldn't even believe it, but I'm going to have to save up my pennies for them. They were pretty pricey. I also really love Victorian furniture, and I'm pretty convinced that I had a past life as a very wealthy, fancy Victorian woman because I love, love, love the things of that era. Finding reference images is half the fun for me, and these are the kinds of details that keep my interest in what I'm doing. And so I think, I just want to encourage you to mine what you love. Bring it forth, for the world to see and celebrate. I hope that you found this video helpful. I hope you're having a wonderful week. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like this video, I sure would appreciate a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Happy creating!